Hey everyone out, welcome to another episode of Disability Landscape. I'm your host, Charlie Bros. With me as usual, well, when he decides to show up, my co-host, Mark Knutson. Mark, we get a fun show today because we're going to be talking to a Paralympic athlete. So go ahead, Mark, who do we have today?
Yeah, this is going to be fun. We are going to be um, talking to a Paralympic athlete who will be leaving for Tokyo in a matter of days, and she will be competing in basketball. And let me introduce her, Rose Hollerman.
Hi guys.
Hi, welcome to the show. So like I said, I would imagine you're leaving in a matter of days for Tokyo, or is that another week or so out?
We actually leave on August 17th, so we have like less than 2 weeks, week and a half-ish.
Oh, okay. So you're just training, I would assume, up until then. And then when you do travel you travel with the whole basketball team, I take it then, or do you end up meeting in Tokyo?
We end up meeting in San Francisco because all of us are coming from all over the United States. So we meet.
That's right.
We meet in San Francisco and then we go to Tokyo together from there.
Yeah, because quite a few years ago, 1988, I was fortunate enough to be to do the Paralympics in weightlifting, and all that just came back to me when you said that. I remember going out to San Francisco, meeting up with everyone else, and then for me going over to Seoul, Korea back then. So yeah, it's a long flight. So
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a journey. And then the processing we're being told is taking a long time. So once we get to Japan, even we're going to be sitting for a while, I think.
And I can't even imagine nowadays. I mean, with the way security is to begin with, and now on top of it, with the COVID stuff, I would assume you better be very good at hurry up and wait.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it too. Hurry up and wait. We've been talking about like different board games we can play and different like bringing cards with, bringing dominoes, like just things to entertain us while we're sitting in airports on the journey there.
It sounds like it's going to be quite a process for you guys. Um, Now you said the rest of the team's kind of all meeting in San Francisco and flying out from there. What's the process for you guys right now getting ready to go? I mean, is there a quarantine process for the players? But if you got a player in Arizona, is she locked down as well? What's the story with that?
I believe we're not going to have mandatory lockdown or quarantine when we get there. I think it's a testing procedure. So we test like 4 days out before we leave, 3 days out before we leave. And then once we arrive in Tokyo, part of the reason processing takes so long is because in the airport we have to test. And then once we enter the village, every single day we're going to be doing COVID testing.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like a fun experience. Well, hold on, halftime, we got to go test. Sorry.
Yeah, at least it's not the nose test, it's like the spit cups test,
Oh,
which
the spit cup test. Well, that
Yeah,
helps a little bit.
yeah, it does.
So why don't you explain, because your connection to Minnesota, of course, is you are from Minnesota. So why don't you talk about how you, I mean, you just didn't start playing wheelchair basketball at a high level. Tell us how you got started and how you began.
So I'm originally from Elysian, Minnesota. I was injured in a car accident when I was 5, and part of the rehabilitation process for me was doing lots and lots of therapy. And one of my favorites was swim therapy at Courage Center. And my swim therapist suggested that I go try wheelchair basketball. And kind of from there, I kind of started playing basketball and started playing all the sports that Courage Center had to offer.
Yeah, that's kind of how it go. Yeah, that's exactly. You gotta you try one, but then you end up trying them all. So I assumed you played, did you play with the junior team, I would assume?
Yeah, I like started, of course, with the prep team, like the junior rolling rowdies, and
Yep,
then
the 8 foot, the 8 foot team.
yeah, and
Yeah,
eventually like moved up. I think the first like junior rolling Timberwolves team I made, because it was a tryout for that, the varsity team was in 2008 or 2007 to 2008 season.
okay. Yeah, because here again, quite a few years ago, I coached this was before was before they were the Timberwolves, but I coached both. One year I coached the 8 foot kid, the 8 foot, which I mean the basket is 8 foot high. The players are 8 feet. So the basket is 8 foot high, and that's the younger kids. And the junior rowdies, we call them, and then the rowdies played on at the 10 foot basket. So it was interesting between the two teams, obviously, because with the 8 foot, the juniors, you're just trying to keep them on the basketball court and
Yeah.
hope for the best. Where at least when I coached the 10 foot team, when they made mistakes, I could holler at them and tell them, don't do that again. But with the juniors, now you gotta do a little pampering and that. So
Yeah, I like going back to Courage Center, and now they have like even a younger team where they're on like a 6 foot basket that is
oh
just
really?
small. Yeah, and that they're like ages 2 to 5, and that's really cute.
It's got to be hard to keep their attention doing anything on the court.
Yeah, they're just kind of in the chairs, like meandering around.
It's like 10 little wheelchairs chasing one ball all across the court.
Yeah.
So now, with all your experience, you still had to try out for the national team, for the Olympic team. Is this your first year going to the Olympics, or you've done it before, or how's that work for you?
I've gone to, this will be my third Paralympics. I was there in 2012 and 2016 as well.
So after the first two, you don't necessarily sweat making the team the third time. Is that the deal?
They do a really good job of always, like, the younger girls are always putting pressure on us that we have to stay, in tip-top condition. And then I also think like the coaches do a great job of like allowing us to earn our spot.
Okay. And what position do you play on the court then?
I mean, wheelchair basketball is a little bit weird. It's like depends on the day how I'm gonna play.
Okay.
Probably like a point guard or a shooting guard.
Okay, so it depends what role needs to be filled at the particular time you're going to be playing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And based off of the team.
What's that?
It's based so much off of the team, exactly what they need. Like because with classification in wheelchair basketball, I think it makes it more complicated.
Okay.
And
do they still have, is it still 3 classes, or is there more than 3 classes nowadays?
There's more. So it goes from 1 to 4.5 by 0.5 increments.
Oh wow, my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
So,
I mean, we just had the 3.
Mark, for our audience, explain the point system, and then Rose can expand what the new system is about too.
Yeah, well, basically, when we were playing, when it was the 3 classes, a class 1 would be essentially someone who is a quadriplegic, has very bad balance, they don't stay up well in their chair. And then 2 is what I'm a paraplegic, paralyzed from the waist down. My balance, I don't have all the trunk muscles. So my balance, if I reach out too far, I will be hitting the ground with my face, which I've done a few times, as you can probably notice. And then the class threes back when I was playing was typically was for the amputees who have the full trunk muscles, so they can, with both hands reach out and not fall out because, they've got the good balance. And back when I played, I would assume that's where Rose would have been. I think she would have been a class three. I'm not exactly sure, but why don't you explain the new class systems kind of and where you fit into it?
So kind of similar, like class ones are like no ab function, typically paralyzed from the waist down.
Okay.
Twos and fives, you start having a little bit more mobility. They can like shift in classification. Now they use like cylinders is a really big point for it. So like you have 4 cylinders, like 2 on each side, 1 in the front, 1 in the back. And if you can powerfully go into that cylinder and return is like what classification and how many you can do that in.
Okay,
So like,
so it's like a strength test then, basically.
yeah, it's more like of a physical exam for how you get classified and like a little bit more medical. It's really interesting how they classify people and what they look at and stuff. But like typically 2s and 2 5s, they have like 1 cylinder they can be powerful in.
Okay.
And then 3s and 3 5s have like 2 to 3 cylinders that they can be powerful in, which is I'm a 3-5, so I can like I have like weakness in one zone, like shifting to the right and coming back.
Sure.
I have
Okay. So up like a 4 and 4.5, they have the ability to work with all different zones.
Yeah, and those are like you say, like your amputees, your
That's what I
like
was just, yep.
people that like either are an amputee or you would see them walking on the street and you'd have no idea that they're disabled.
Right. That when the game's over, they can get up out of their chair and still be considered disabled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They can get out of their chair and tuck their wheelchair underneath their arm and just walk away.
Walk away with it. Yeah.
Those of us in the wheelchairs like, hey, wait, hold on, wait for us.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're more considered a paraplegic then, is that correct, Rose?
On the very, very high end of it.
Okay.
Yeah, as a 3-5, it's kind of like it's kind of like a tweener role too. That's why I say like my role on the team is a little bit like weird because I like have the ability at some moments to go play like the role of like our center, our like the big girls, but then also I have to sit a little bit lower and I have a little bit less function. So I also like will play point guard and shooting guard a little bit more.
Okay, so that I understand. Yeah, because I was curious. I was not curious, but I was surprised when you said that you were playing a shooting guard because the few pictures I've seen of you sit pretty tall in your wheelchair. So I thought, I'm like, oh, she must play, underneath center or maybe forward, but I never thought of the guard position. That's where I was guard. I was useless underneath the basket. It's like, get me out of here.
He couldn't rebound for his life.
No. I could cheat sometimes because, and I don't know if this has changed. I don't think it has, but I'm not sure. But in basketball, you still got to keep your butt in your wheelchair, right?
Yeah.
So you can't raise up a little bit.
I mean, people still do it.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
If they get caught, we'll see, right?
Yeah.
You really concealed that one. Well, Rose. Well, because with my disability, I have legs that are kind of underneath me, and I can push up a little bit, and and raise the butt, not much, like a half an inch or an inch, but every once in a while when I would go in underneath the basket and fighting for a rebound, I could kind of push up and hit the ball. And the big guy would look down at me sometimes. How in the heck did you get up here? And I'm like, hey, I don't know.
It's funny.
Yeah, it made for some interesting times. But yeah, I didn't really have to do it a lot because I stayed away from being underneath the basket. That just wasn't for me. So
Okay. So now, Rose, you've explained the point system, but I don't know if our audience understands, when you're playing the game, you can only have a certain number of points on the floor. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can only have the 5 players can exceed 14 points when you add their
Okay.
classifications up.
Okay, so you're lucky if you have one person on the floor that's a 4.5, right? At any one time.
Yeah, it's pretty typical for teams, I think, to run like 1-4, like a 4-5 and a 1, and then 3 mids, or running 2 4s, 2 1s, and a mid.
Okay. Okay.
Those are
yeah,
pretty
because
generic
yeah,
lineups.
'cause
It's
we-
really a balancing act for the coach.
Yeah, I think it adds such a fun element to the game because like all of a sudden you have to be thinking about lineups and like
yeah.
sub rotations, and it's just like, it turns it a little bit more into a checkers game versus a chess game, or a chess game instead of a checkers game. Oops.
Okay.
But because like you see that sometimes with people that never come and watch the game, like sometimes if a class 1 gets in foul trouble, you have to also sub your 4-5 out. So say you come watch a game and the 4-5 scores 2 plays in a row, and then the class 1 picks up their 4th foul, so they have to make a sub rotation. Sometimes you'll see like 2 players come off, and one of them, you're like, that was just the person that was scoring. Why is the coach taking them off? But it's because of classification, and you have to
Right.
stick to lineups.
And they have to balance the points out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I was playing, like I said, it was only the 1, 2s, and 3s, and back then I think the total was 12 points. So we would typically have 2 3s out there, and then kind of fill in with the 1s and 2s and that. So I think my most interesting time when I played wheelchair ball was when our big guy, this was back when the wheelchairs had the spokes like you see in a bicycle wheel. So it's been quite a few years ago. And our big guy, someone rammed into him and took out like half of his spokes.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah. So that wasn't going to be able to be corrected back then on a 2-minute equipment timeout. So
No.
the coach looked at me and he said, Mark. And I thought, so I started taking off my warm-up jacket. I'm like, oh, wow, I can't believe I'm going in for the big guy. I wasn't even complaining. I just wanted playing time. So I'm so excited because I was typically a bench warmer. I'm getting off my jacket, my warm-up jacket. And he says, Mark, no, keep your jacket on. We want your chair. Yeah. So my chair got into the game and I never did.
Aw, sad.
I know. Yeah. I was so upset I even let my chair shower by itself. I said, forget your chair.
Aw.
Yeah, that was funny because my coach looked at me. He said, Mark, I think I no sooner got like about 4 buttons undone on my warm-up jacket. I said, no, keep that on. Get your butt out of your chair. We need your wheelchair. I'm like, okay, that's
Wow.
that's par for me in that. Another question I was curious about is, like you said, you've been to 3 Paralympics. Have you been to other international competitions then?
Yeah, I've been to 3 Pan Am games, 2 world championships.
Wow.
Well, you've
So-
been to,
Yeah.
Now this is your 3rd Paralympic. Does it get tired? Is it still exciting each time you go?
Yeah, I think it's always different. And I think as your role, like as my role has changed on the team, like there's different things that make me really like excited and make the experience really special for me. Like now I'm one of the older ones that have been there, but I get to watch the younger kids or the people that haven't been to one experience it first. And I
So
think like
you get to kind of experience it through their eyes then.
yeah, exactly. So that makes
Oh,
it really special.
yeah, it can make it special for you each time out.
I don't think I'll ever get tired of it.
Now, besides competing internationally for the different USA teams, you, which I never even realized it existed, you actually play professional wheelchair basketball over in Spain, correct?
Yeah, so I live in Las Palmas, Gran Canaria, and which is like a set of islands off of the coast of Morocco, and I get to play like professional basketball there,
Wow.
mostly in Spain, but also in all of Europe, which is cool.
So, so most of Europe has professional wheelchair basketball.
Yeah, I think like Italy, France, Spain, Germany, and Turkey are the biggest ones, but most of them have at least like one or two teams that will compete in the European division.
Wow.
When did that like I said, I didn't even realize that there was professional wheelchair. When did that start? Do you know?
Um,
Oh, she's got the thinking cap on here.
You've stumped her, Mark.
Yeah.
yeah, at least 2010 it was going on because I know that currently there's people playing in the league that have been on their team since 2010.
Wow.
Oh
So
gosh.
at least that if I think I would like to like maybe 2004-ish.
Okay.
But it's really taken off in the last couple of years. Like now it's kind of a trend in wheelchair basketball that like you go to college and once you're done, you head over to Europe to play on a professional team.
Gosh, how many? I mean, I'm sure you don't know the exact number, but how many athletes from the U.S. do you think are competing over there professionally?
In Spain, there are four of us. In Germany, there are two or three of them. And I think that's it right now. But it's actually a co-ed league. So
Yeah.
Oh, it is. So you're playing men and women on the same team?
yeah, and how they do that is because of the classification system. You just, if you're a female, you go down a point and a half.
Oh, okay. I was kind of wondering how that. Okay, so they just take a point and a half off your classification then.
So I'm actually the only female from the US that's playing over there right now. And then the rest that I mentioned are all males, are all members of the guys, the men's USA team.
Oh, of the men's. Oh, so you're. Is there many women players over there like you then?
Um, the league is 95% male,
Oh, it is. Okay.
and I'm the only female on my team currently.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
And
it
how
makes
did,
for an interesting dynamic.
well, yeah, I would, I would imagine so. And then, how did you even end up? I mean, how did you find, did they approach you? How did the connection with you going over there get created?
When I was in my last couple years of college, I kind of started like telling some of the men's players that play over there that eventually I would like to go over to Europe after I'm done with school. And then once they started like talking to their coaches and word got out, like teams started to approach me.
Oh, okay. And so how many, the team that you're on, how many is in the league then that you compete in?
In the Spanish league, there are 12 teams.
12
Okay.
teams. And of the 12 teams, are you the only female player then?
No, I'm not. There's out of the 12 teams, I would say probably 9 of them have females on the
Oh,
team.
okay. On the team. Okay. Okay. So there is a handful of other female players out there then.
Yeah, and some of the teams have like a couple different players, like a couple female players on their teams.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
Do you, Charlie, you have a question? I
No,
should let
continue.
Charlie, I got so many questions. I'll hold on for a second. Sorry, Charlie.
Well, then this is part of the IWBF then? Is that correct?
Uh, yes, but not like the same as like the international playing for your country stuff. It's more like
Okay.
club based.
Okay.
It's
Because the
kind of-
IWBF oversees all World Basketball Associations. That kind of the program.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's what,
I'm just
that's what
doing
I
my
like about
research.
you, Rose. You don't fake it. Just admit it. Hey, I don't know.
That stuff is all so complicated that I have, I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, my mind's just blown away. I'm still trying to figure out all the classification systems. I thought 3 classes were enough, but now when you start filling in these half classes or whatever, I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, the coach has got to sit there on the sidelines with a spreadsheet and a computer or something to calculate all the different configurations he can have out on the court.
Well, and I've seen like coaches with like a laminated note card, like with different classifications on it, and having a couple that like you can flip through to like find what you want.
Find what you want. And now, do you find when you're playing, being it's co-ed and that, do the men still play hard against the women players, or do they give you a break at all? I would think not, being it's professional. I mean, everyone for themselves.
It's very professional. So I think like maybe at the very beginning when women started being included, maybe there was a bit of hesitation, but I think like at this point it's all the same.
Rose, I want to thank you for joining us. Look forward to seeing how the team does over in at the Paralympics in Tokyo and that.
Thanks for having me. Excited as well. I hope we do well.
Well, again, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Rose. I got the name right, so I get the extra credit. This has been another episode of Disability Landscape, and we'll see y'all next time.